They were all inside, laughing, toasting, celebrating 40 years of a love story I apparently didn't belong to. I held the cake like a fool, red velvet with buttercream roses. I'd left work early. I'd written "to the best love I've ever witnessed" on the box. But the door didn't open. Just a crack. Just her eye. And then her whisper. "It's just for married couples tonight. You'd feel out of place. My name is Danielle Carter. And from wherever you're watching this, tell me in comments, have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family?" The porch light flickered above me, that sick yellow glow buzzing like it could barely stand the weight of my presence. I looked down at the cake. Still warm. I'd asked them to box it carefully. I'd imagined placing it gently beside the champagne. Watching Mom cry. Dad, I stepped back. Set it on the concrete like a delivery girl who got the address wrong. And walked away. I didn't cry. Not at first. I walked to my car, sat in the silence and let the leather seat hug me tighter than my family ever had. At 11:52 p.m. my phone buzzed. Uncle Greg. The funny uncle who once told my fiancé I'd be too bossy to marry. Grow up. Not everything is about you. No context. No care. Just a slap disguised as advice. So I forwarded him a screenshot. My security cam, the one Mom forgot I still had access to. She opened the cake. Laughed. She really thought we'd invite her? Poor girl thinks anniversaries are for broken women to feel special. My aunt's voice joined in. They cut the cake. Passed slices around like communion. And I just watched. The next morning at 8 a.m. sharp I filed it. A single transfer notice. The Carter family land, 17.2 acres. The soil they all built their dreams on. It was mine. Has been legally for 6 years. Grandpa gave it to me after I stayed by his hospice bed while they vacationed in Maui. I never said a word. Till now. The notice hit their doors at 9:03 a.m. Printed in red. Signed, sealed, and irreversible. They said nothing for hours. But by nightfall, they were knocking on my door. And I let it ring. While I lit a candle. And finally cut myself a slice of cake. By morning their voices were louder than the birds. I watched from behind the curtain, coffee in hand, while Aunt Renee paced the driveway like a woman freshly evicted from heaven. She looked up at my window. Like maybe if she stared hard enough I'd forget the years she called me Danielle the Difficult behind my back. My phone vibrated. Over and over. Then Dad. Then family group chat. Where I'd apparently been uninvited for years but magically re-added overnight. Mom, we need to talk. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Dad, can we please handle this like adults? Greg, this is insane, Danielle. Don't destroy the family over a cake. Over a cake? It wasn't about the cake. It was about every Christmas Eve I spent alone because married couples rotate holidays. It was about Dad forgetting my birthday, 3 years in a row, but remembering his golf buddy's dog's name. It was about being their daughter, but never their pride. So I texted back calmly. Please direct all communication to my lawyer, Tom Nguyen. He'll be handling all negotiations moving forward. 5 minutes later. Pounding on the door. Danny. Danielle. Baby, open the door. My mother's voice cracked like ice. I let it play out. Just like I'd let every family dinner play out where I was seated near the kitchen, next to the coats and casserole lids. He banged again. We didn't mean it like that. It was just, the theme. The theme. Apparently love had a guest list. And unmarried daughters with no children didn't fit the decor. I walked outside finally. She turned. And for a moment she smiled like she could rewind time with a hug. I didn't flinch. I gave everything to this family, I said. Time, loyalty, silence. She opened her mouth but I raised a hand. Grandpa gave me that land because I showed up when no one else did. He said, one day they'll make you feel small, and you'll need something they can't take. Her tears were real now. But so was mine. You locked me out. So now, I'm unlocking the door to a future where I'm no longer your shadow. She whispered, please don't do this. I leaned in just enough for her to smell the lavender oil I always wore. The one she said reminded her of Grandma. And I said, you already did. By noon the story spread like wildfire through town. People who hadn't said my name in years suddenly remembered it real clear. Aunt Renee called her church prayer group. Uncle Greg tried to call his buddy on the county council. Even my baby cousin Megan posted a teary TikTok about family land being snatched by bitterness. Bitterness? Bitterness didn't sit at hospice for 73 nights straight. Bitterness didn't clean vomit off Grandpa's sheets or hold his trembling hand when he asked where everyone was. Bitterness didn't whisper, "Don't worry, I'll keep your promise," while he took his last breath. No, that was love. That was me. But now they wanted to rewrite the story. Make me the villain for simply cashing the check they left unsigned. A knock came at the door. Not loud. Not desperate. Just deliberate. I opened it and there he stood. That same ball cap, same cologne, same inability to say the words that mattered. "I told your mother it was a stupid thing to say," he started. I folded my arms. "But you didn't stop her," I said. He looked past me into my house like he was searching for pieces of the daughter he ignored for a decade. "You can't sell the land, Danielle. It's where we all live. Your cousins have houses there. Renee just built her patio." I blinked. "And I just bought a wedding dress I'll never wear because my fiancé left me last year and none of you noticed." He froze. I sent a group text. Said I needed support. You know what I got back? I didn't wait for him to guess. Greg sent a meme. Megan said she was busy with finals. Mom sent a thumbs up. His mouth opened then closed like a puppet without a script. "I'm not doing this out of spite," I whispered. "I'm doing it because I spent 32 years asking for room at your table. And now I've built my own." He reached for my shoulder. I stepped back. "You always said, family first. But that only applied to the ones who fit your picture frames." And then I handed him the second envelope. The one no one expected. Not a court notice. Not a warning. Just the final sale agreement. Signed. To a buyer who was turning the land into transitional housing for single mothers. Dad looked up stunned. And I simply said, "Maybe next time make space for the ones without rings." By sunset the group chat exploded. Megan messaged, "You sold Grandpa's legacy to strangers?" Greg added, "We should have never let her handle anything. She was always emotional." "And Mom?" He just sent, "Come home. Let's talk. Before it's too late." Too late? Too late was every time I sat in my car after family gatherings, listening to laughter spill from windows that stayed shut to me. Too late was when I miscarried at 10 weeks and no one showed up because that doesn't count as a real baby. Too late was the exact moment she whispered through the crack in the door, "You'd feel out of place." That wasn't a mistake. That was a decision. They'd always chosen each other. Even when I bled. Even when I broke. So I chose me. And the land? It would breathe again. 17 acres carved into small homes for women like me. Women who were told they didn't belong because they didn't have a husband or a title or a baby on the way. Women who made it anyway. The developer met me at the property line that evening. "You sure about this?" he asked gently. I nodded. Then turned toward the trees, the ones Grandpa planted with his bare hands. He used to say, "You don't own land, Danny. You care for it. You decide what it grows." But I was ready to grow something better than silence. But right then headlights pulled up. Aunt Renee's minivan. She stormed out, pearls clutched, eyes wild. "You're heartless," she spat. "How dare you take what we've built and give it away to strangers with problems?" I didn't flinch. "You mean people like me?" She blinked. Didn't know how to answer. I walked to the edge of the land and pointed. "That's where my tiny home will go. Over there a garden for healing. And right next to it, a center for women with no place to go when their families shut them out." She scoffed. "You think this makes you a hero?" I smiled slow and cold. "No. This makes me free." Behind me the sun dipped below the trees. And in the silence I could almost hear Grandpa's voice again. "Good girl. Let it grow." And so I did. The next morning I woke up to silence. No notifications. No knocks. No begging. Just peace. I brewed my coffee slow, let the warmth fill my palms like a prayer. And for the first time in years I didn't feel like I had to apologize for breathing. Then came the letter. Slipped under my door in an envelope I knew too well. Pale pink, scented like rosewater. Mom's handwriting. Inside was a photo. Me. Age 6. Smiling, frosting on my cheek, holding a birthday cake I barely remembered. On the back she'd written, "I don't know when we lost each other. But I know I miss this girl. I miss you. I was wrong. I was scared. I let traditions become rules. And I let those rules bury you. There were more pages. She wrote about her marriage. How she'd felt like a ghost behind Dad's booming voice. How her wedding ring felt like a leash some days. She admitted something I never expected. I envied you. Your courage to leave. Your refusal to settle. Your silence wasn't rebellion. It was survival. I see that now. I sat there letting the tears fall. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady, like rain on an old roof. I wasn't sure if I forgave her yet. But I knew she'd finally seen me. And then my phone buzzed. It was the developer. Danielle, he said, you might want to come by the site. Then things happened. I drove over expecting sabotage. Expecting more drama. But instead, I found candles. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Lining the edge of the property. Photos of women, faces I didn't know. Notes that read things like, for my sister who never made it out. For the child I had to walk away from. For the version of me I left behind. A quiet vigil. No hashtags. No selfies. Just remembrance. At the front stood a girl no older than 20. She looked at me with red eyes and whispered, my boyfriend hit me last year. Your center is going to save girls like me. She placed a candle down. Then walked away. And right then, I understood. This wasn't just revenge. This was resurrection. And I would build it with my bare hands. For every girl who had to leave the party early. And for every woman who was told she didn't belong. As now. We did. They tried everything after that. Legal loopholes. Petitions. Even a letter from Uncle Greg's lawyer friend. Who turned out to be a paralegal with a Gmail address. But the land was mine. Signed, sealed, sold. And no amount of guilt-wrapped Bible verses or crying voicemails could undo the ink. Still they didn't stop trying. At Sunday service, Pastor Ray preached about forgiveness and prodigal daughters. Cousin Luke tagged me in an old family photo captioned, before the money changed her. Money didn't change me. Silence did. Being invisible did. The years I sat at the kids' table into my 30s, while Megan's new boyfriend got Dad's recliner and a beer. The birthdays forgotten. The weddings I helped plan but wasn't invited to stand in. The way Mom's eyes dimmed any time I brought up therapy. Well, money didn't change me. It just gave me the pen. And I started writing a new story. Construction began the following week. The sign out front read, The Hearth Project. A home for women starting over. I planted it myself, hands in dirt, sweat running down my back like memory. And then came the day I dreaded. Grandpa's birthday. The first one since the sale. I stood by the old oak tree, the one he carved our initials into when I was 5. D+G, it read. Danielle plus Grandpa. He always said we were twins born decades apart. Stubborn, quiet, loyal to a fault. I brought him a slice of lemon cake and a photo of the blueprint. You'd like this place, I whispered. Lots of gardens. Big windows. No dress codes. I smiled through the tears. Even Mom apologized. Took her 40 years, but she got there. Just then a shadow moved behind me. I turned. It was her. Hair pulled back. No lipstick. Holding a mason jar full of wildflowers. She looked down, then handed them to me. For Grandpa, she said. And for you. We stood there in silence. Not fixing anything. Not forcing it. Just 2 women on scorched earth. Trying to make something grow. Then she whispered, I'm proud of what you're building. Even if it cost me comfort. I nodded. Because comfort was never the goal. Truth was. Finally. It was blooming. 2 weeks before the center opened, Dad showed up. No warning. No text. Just his gray Ford pickup pulling into the gravel lot while the paint was still drying on the porch. I watched from the upstairs window, heart steady, not racing. I was done being the girl who flinched at doorbells. He got out slowly like someone visiting a cemetery. Button-down shirt tucked too tight, tie askew like it hadn't been worn in years. And in his hand, a box. Taped shut. Familiar handwriting on top. Danny's stuff. Old school books. A softball trophy. The dollhouse I built from scratch with Grandpa wrapped in newspaper. A lifetime in cardboard. He stood at the foot of the porch, eyes searching the fresh painted siding, the solar panels, the garden beds marked with names of women donors. Finally, he said, You were always the one with vision. I didn't reply. I know what I did, he added, voice cracking. I let your mother take the lead. I thought I was just staying out of the way. But not stepping in, that was the betrayal. That landed hard. Because silence had always been his weapon. The times he watched them mock me and said nothing. The nights I cried in my old room while laughter echoed downstairs. The anniversary party where he toasted to the family we built, while I stood outside, cake in hand. Now he stood before the home I built from their rejection. I came down the porch steps slow. Met him eye to eye. You let them shrink me. He nodded. I did. You watched me disappear. I know. And now you want what exactly? Forgiveness. He looked down, swallowing hard. No. I just wanted you to know, you didn't go unseen. Not by everyone. He opened the box. Inside, on top of the dollhouse, was a photo I hadn't seen in years. Me and Grandpa. In front of the treehouse. He had his arm around me and his eyes said everything I forgot to believe. You mattered, Dad whispered. I took the box. Not as a peace offering. As a memory. Of what shaped me. And what no longer owned me. He turned to go. And just before climbing into his truck, he paused and said, I hope someday someone builds something this beautiful out of my mistakes. And then he left. Quiet. Small. Human. Opening day felt like a rebirth. Sun rising slow over the roofline, catching on the stained glass window we salvaged from a church that shut down 2 towns over. Women trickled in. Some shy, some fierce, all carrying invisible weights. A nurse escaping her husband's fists. A teenager 3 months pregnant with nowhere to go. A grandmother who said, I just need silence and a window. And they found it. Room by room, heart by heart, we built sanctuary. That night I walked the halls barefoot, listening. Laughter in the kitchen. Someone singing upstairs, off-key and beautiful. A child's giggle bouncing down the hall like a hymn. And then I got the text. From Uncle Greg. You really did it. The whole town's talking. Even the mayor. For what it's worth. I was wrong. We all were. I didn't reply. Not out of spite. But because I was busy placing a photo on the mantel. Grandpa and me. Smiling. Whole. Above it I'd stenciled a quote in gold. Sometimes the ones left outside the door. Build a house no one can be locked out of. 2 weeks later, Mom donated her wedding china. Said it had never felt like hers anyway. I used the pieces to create a mosaic backsplash in the main kitchen. Sharp edges turned into light. Dad sent a check. No note. Just a name on the bottom. For the ones who didn't get a toast. And on our 6-month anniversary we held a bonfire in the garden. One by one women tossed things in. Letters they were never brave enough to send. T-shirts from exes. A church bulletin someone had once used to shame them. Me. I dropped in the receipt from the cake I left on my parents' porch. Watched it curl, burn, disappear. No more proving. No more begging. I didn't need an invitation anymore. Because I'd created the celebration. And it was full of women who knew what it meant to be forgotten. And how to find each other in the smoke. No fireworks. No confetti. Just firelight. And freedom.